we are going to see a battle of the champions here with the former world champion Shahar Shenhar and Javier Dominguez duking it out in this next matchup. I'm looking forward to it, Monty. Tell me what you expect to see in this matchup.
I'm about as lost as the desk are in terms of who's going to win this matchup. Javier is really trying to capitalize on these early aggressive creatures like the Flameblade Adept and the Flourishing Fox, and early creatures are kind of what Shahar is trying to target with this deck. We see the copies of Wall of Blossoms, at least as an early blocker. We see copies of Baffling and plenty of board wipes, so I don't actually know if Javier has a good matchup here, but when it comes to this Abzan deck, or Gabzan as people are calling it, I'm lost. I have no idea if they have a good matchup here.
Well, we will certainly see as this game plays out. Taking a look at Javier's hand, it's a little clunky, but he can cycle his way into a far better 7.
Yeah, a little clunky is certainly putting it lightly. A tap land into no second land and a lot of 1-mana cyclers isn't ideal, but given the makeup of Javier's deck, there's certainly ways for it to turn around, and that is exactly one of them.
Never didn't have it.
Never
Red source untapped. Here comes Flameblade Adept, and next turn we're gonna cycle. Woohoo!
Speaking of cards that are very good against early creatures, Kaya exiles almost every aggressive threat from Javier's deck. And Javier won't be able to present Hollow Ones this turn. So Shahar has an incredible curve of going Kaya, exile this Flameblade Adept, and then just have Extinction Event if Javier goes double Hollow One next turn, for example.
Oh, that's going to be brutal, but let's see how this next turn plays out here. If we're going to see Kaya come on down and deal with this pesky little menace.
Kaya, the reason is primarily in this Abzan deck isn't for Flameblade Adepts, you might be shocked to hear. This is a card that exiles ovens, it exiles cats, it can deal with geese, it can deal with problematic 1-cost non-land permanents and tokens. It's not really here to deal with Flameblade Adepts. Unfortunately for Javier, that is a very, very significant cost that affects them specifically.
So cycling a couple cards there from Javier, finds a Sheltered Thicket. Unfortunately, not an untapped land. Kaya's going to start munching on things in graveyards, though. So,
oh, does cycling need its graveyard, Ailey?
Sorry, Kaya eats the graveyard.
Yeah, unfortunately for Javier, this 3-mana Planeswalker kind of ruins their entire deck. This isn't something that we expected to see coming into today, was Kaya would just destroy Boros cycling single-handedly, but one Adept gone, the second one in hand basically gone already. We have an answer to the Extinction Event, ready for those Hollow Ones should they come down, and Zenith Flare isn't going to do anything this game as long as this Kaya gets to keep going up.
No, and as far as I know, there's no real ways for Javier Dominguez's Boros cyclers to get at this Kaya, so he's just kind of hoping that he can keep some threats on the battlefield here. So it's going to be the Flameblade Adept as well as the Hollow One.
Yeah, he has those cast outs in hand. They can get rid of Kaya next turn. Unfortunately, this Extinction Event is backbreaking here for Javier. He's not going to like seeing that one as, yeah, you see the grimace as, oh, this is Kaya continuing to work on the graveyard, down to only 2 cycling cards.
Oh, goodness me. We might see a Kaya ultimate win here. And we would not have seen that for, like, what, 3 years? 2 years?
A very long time. The last time I saw Kaya being played was in Esper Control as a 1-of in Standard. It's been some time.
Well, as you mentioned, the cost out is able to take care of Kaya, but there is one of the answers to the plenty permanents running around in Historic. Finding the Old Gods is going to come down and take care of cost out. Oh, look, a Kaya. It's back.
Yeah, Shahar has a deck that is really, really hating out on artifacts and enchantments. 4 copies of Binding the Old Gods, 4 copies of Night of Autumn. Now, all of these are targeting Trail of Crumbs and Witch's Oven. Again, he's not trying to beat Javier's deck, as much as it looks like he's just actually hard countering it at the moment. The goal here was not to beat Javier's deck. Javier's deck is just getting beaten as an unfortunate side effect. And you see Javier not playing a cast out there because he sees a Yorion sitting in Shahar's hand. If
Yeah.
he goes for a cast out, it's just gone again.
It's just collateral damage. It's like, oh, people are playing Boros cycling. Well, that's neat. Our deck hit something else.
Man, this is so
goodness.
brutal for Javier.
Yeah, so he's going to have to wait until the binding is gone and hope that there's not another one waiting in hand here for Shahar. And Kai is just going to keep munching. Nom 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 nom.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see Shahar just shock this Overgrown Tomb and go for an Emirius call here. Present 2 4/4s at 22 life and ask Javier, okay, Mr. Cycler, how are you going to deal with this?
Yeah. Where's that Zenith Flare? Oh, it's useless? Sorry.
I see. He could slow it down, play Yorion, draw a card with Wall of Omens, reset this Maze Mind Tome, reset Binding again, and get another land from it next turn. But you could get aggressive.
I think he's just going to try and shut Javier out here entirely. Just reset everything. Let's just, you know, do this all over again.
Just a little value-oriented play.
Yeah. All right, so picking the 3 of the other 4 permanents on the battlefield, sending them to exile, get them back on the end step. Now, I wonder if Javier is going to cycle this cost out.
Well, he could use it now to get rid of this Kaya because the binding has triggered, but then Shahar would just Yorion again the next turn. So cycling does give him a chance to try to find something. The big question looking at the list is, what is something?
Yeah, what does the something look like? Because I don't know. There's another cost out. It's just going to get cycled away.
This is
Flourishing
brutal.
Fox, yeah. I mean, goodness. Is he just looking for a Zenith Flare here?
He's trying, going
yeah.
through the motions, looking for it as much as possible, cycling everything he draws, but the Zenith Flare wouldn't be that large. Shahar did a great job of at least removing the early graveyard, so Javier may be at something like 7 or 8 here, but that's not what he needs to close out this game.
Oh, he's certainly digging, trying to find one. You'd think going through that many cards, you would have seen one copy of Zenith Flare by now, but unfortunately that's not the case here for the 2018 World Champion.
Ailey, I told you, Shahar, when he's like this, it's not just that he draws well. His opponents just stop drawing well. We saw it from Andrew Cuneo last round. I watched all of Shahar's run over the course of 2 years towards becoming back-to-back world champion. This is something that is not new to the Shahar fans.
Oh, no. Lady Luck is certainly on his side. Goodness. All right, so Javier has managed to get some stuff into the graveyard. Kai is going to go munching on it very shortly, no doubt.
Yeah. Shahar doing the math on the cards in exile. There's currently 12 in exile, so a Kaya Ultimate would put Javier down to 8 life. But Shahar taking it safe, just saying, I don't need to do that quite yet. And now we're going to see the Angels. The Kaya Ultimate still threatened next turn, and Javier is going to need something now.
Yeah, Kai is just going to be like, oh, Zenith Flare does 1 million damage? Hold my beer.
It's the reverse Zenith Flare.
Yes, just the one that cares about the exile. So a very tough match there for Javier Dominguez as we're going to go into game number 2 here. What does sideboarding look like from the cycling side of things?
He does have access to Fry if he needs it. Try to answer something like these Yasharns, like Yorion. But Fry is a good answer to Kaya. That is perhaps the most compelling argument for bringing it in, considering there are multiple copies of Kaya in this deck. There are actually 2, I believe. So may consider an answer there, but otherwise, this isn't something you came ready for.
I believe Fry would hit Kaya.
It would indeed.
Yes.
But Javier deeming it's just not good enough. He needs to do his thing. Part of the problem bringing a deck like this Boros cycling deck is you can't dilute your deck too much. All of your cards are really dependent on you getting that massive chain of cyclers. When you play Hollow One, you need to be playing it for 1 or 0 mana. You can't be playing a Hollow One that you're casting for 3 mana off of a single cycle. That's not a winning game plan.
Draenei Stinger are going to be the first threat deployed here for Javier Dominguez. Take a look at Shahar's hand. He's got plenty of card draw on these Wall of Blossoms.
Plenty of Wall of Blossoms, fully ready here to block this Draenei Stinger. But at least for Javier, he doesn't need to get through with Draenei Stinger to get damage in.
Oh yeah, that's just going to ping away every single cycle here as he finds another land off the top. Forgotten Cave's going to get cycled too. Let's see if we can keep the chain going here and find another cycler in Secluded Steppe, so he'll be quite happy to find that.
Yeah, Hollow One able to come down here for free, and Javier, a bit more of an aggressive start than he got last game, does find that single copy of Abandoned Sarcophagus that he boarded in. That is one of the tools that this cycling deck is bringing to the table to combat these more mid-range decks where you're trying to grind them out. Everything that you cycled, you can start casting from your graveyard later on, but there's only one cycler left in Javier's hand right now, and Shahar has a lot of gas to follow this up in a few turns.
Yeah, it draws a copy of Elspeth Conquers Death away to answer Hollow One, but does also have the Extinction event should things get a little out of hand here. But for now, we're just going to keep cycling. Just keep cycling, and pinging away with the Draenei Stinger, and in come the creatures. Hollow One will be blocked by one of the Wall of Blossoms, and no damage will get through from the attackers.
Shahar has that Extinction event to answer this Hollow One, so not overly concerned with the board right now. It's the Draenei Stinger that is a problem, and it's that Zenith Flare that is starting to get really scary, as this game, Shahar hasn't worked on the graveyard at all.
Oh no. Ooh, Thoughtseize. Okay, now, what do we prioritize here? Extinction event is the option that we're going for. And you can see Javier is mad about it.
Javier is mad, and that's the last cycle. He needs to chain this.
Yeah. Oh, another Zenith Flare. Okay. So Thoughtseize can take care of one of the Zenith Flares. But if we can just string together a few more cycles, he may have it here. Oof.
All right, that's one Zenith Flare potentially gone. Shahar may want to lead off with something like Wall of Blossoms. It would be interesting to see if he thinks he has the time to just Elspeth Conquers Death, the Sarcophagus, and shut off Javier from having access to that graveyard value. But now Javier is in a position where he could potentially start off the cycling train or just start firing off Zenith Flares at Shahar's face.
I like that option.
All right.
Ace is the place. 8 damage down to 4. Go Shahar Shenhar. With another one in hand. Is Shahar going to take a peek? It'll take him down to 2 though. So 2 cycles would be all that Javier needs to win this game.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that Legion's End on the Draenei Stinger as well, just for Shahar to try to preserve here. Follow it up with either a Mazemite Tome or another Wall of Blossoms, but Shahar is in an awkward position right now. He's dead to a lot.
Or is he? Chances are he will find a way out of this somehow. Given what we've seen today.
Yeah, I think Mazemite Tome, Legion's End, that's the start of Shahar's comeback. The 2 creatures in hand. Flourishing Fox does cycle, but the Flameblade Adept does not. Its only real form of evasion is that menace that it has. Fortunately for Shahar, he has plenty of Wall of Blossoms to block it. Hollow One, not exactly what Javier's looking for, though it is another card that he can present as a threat. What he really wants is another Stinger. He wants another Zenith Flare to cast in 1 turn.
2 Flameblade Adepts aren't bad.
Yeah, double menace creature. Now Shahar needs 4 blockers. Fortunately, he's going to get a Wall of Blossoms back from that Elspeth Conquers Death, binding the Old Gods, one of these Flameblade Adepts, and even has an extra Wall of Blossoms in case he needs it, or able to just sit back. Shahar really looking for something to start working on this graveyard. A Kaya would be incredible. He would love something like maybe Night of Autumn to gain some life, or an Oath of Kaya. That would be great. Lots of good draws here from Shahar at the moment.
Another Legion's End. Oh. What?
All right. Well, goodbye, Flameblade Adepts.
Oh, they tried so hard and they got so far, but in the end, it didn't even matter as Legion's End is just going to take care of it. And finds a Yorion as well here. Good grief.
All right, could lead off with a Wall of Blossoms. A
Mm-hmm.
land would let him put the other Yorion into his hand as well as cast the Legion's End. At least wants to make informed decisions. It could just lead off with this Oath of Kaya now. Yes, Legion's End on double Flameblade Adept is very tempting, but having 3 Wall of Blossoms blocks those Flameblade Adepts quite well.
Mm-hmm.
And gaining some life here, yes, it's not going to protect you against the Zenith Flare, but it at least pads your life total a bit against the Stinger, meaning that you don't just immediately die. If Javier goes Stinger, 1 mana cycler, 1 mana cycler, the game can just end.
Yeah.
So I think that's the line of reasoning that Shahar is using to think, maybe I just go for this Oath of Kaya and try to play it safe.
Yeah, it looks like that's what he's going to go for here as he gives it one last think. Oath of Kaya is going to take care of one of these Flameblade Adepts. What do you draw off the top? It's a Footfall Crater.
It
Or
pains
Javier.
me to see the value given up from that Legion's End, but
Oh, yeah. You always liked a 2-for-1, right? So it's so satisfying.
yeah, the nice thing about that Oath of Kaya is now with this copy of Yorion in hand and the other one in the companion zone, Shahar can start working his way towards getting that life total up a bit. But again, what he's really looking for is a way to start attacking this graveyard, or the most important card he has remaining in his deck, Necromentia. If he can Necromentia the remaining Zenith Flares, he's going to feel in an extremely good position here in this remaining game.
Flameblade Adept swinging in for 5, 2 blocks tendered by the Wall of Blossoms. One of them will go into the bin. And could follow up here with a hollow one. Let's see if he does so.
I don't think Javier feels like Hollow One does anything anymore. It's
Mhm.
blocked on the board, and he may just be in the market of cycling it. He knows that he's on a clock. He needs to find Zenith Flare, and he needs to do it soon. For
Yeah.
Shahar, 4 life isn't going to protect him from a Zenith Flare anymore. He's gotten out of Stinger range. The most Javier can do with a Stinger at this point is 3 damage. So that's not what he's worried about. Now it's all about digging to a card like Necromentia.
So a couple options here for Shahar Shenhar. Binding the Old Gods being one of them. Yorion Sky Nomad to draw a bunch of cards and reset the permanents on the battlefield.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Shahar blinks the tome. Again, 4 life isn't the difference maker at this point, so he'd rather get more scries or cards out of it, and actually decides to take a shock there from the Temple Garden to get an extra card off that tome, recognizing that, again, the difference between 5 and 6, or 6 and 8 essentially here with that Oath of Kaya isn't that much. Zenith Flare will kill you regardless, Stinger will not kill you either way.
Well, a cycler drawn off the top. Let's see if we can chain it together. Unfortunately not for Javier, who finds a Sacred Foundry off the top of the library. Gonna shock it in. Pass back the turn. He's
Yeah, you
my
saw
turn, draw a
Javier.
card. Oh.
He played Secluded Step last turn. The reason to do that was he wanted to give him maximum outs in case he went 1 mana cycler into Zenith Flare. He would have the ability to do that. Same here. He's playing these lands because he wants to give himself the maximum number of cycling chains here. Why he didn't do it at sorcery speed is if he finds that Zenith Flare and isn't able to cast it that turn, then he's exposing it to a card like Thoughtseize that Shahar
Yeah.
has there. So he doesn't want to draw it until he can cast it.
Super heads up there from Javier as Yorion Sky Nomad swings in for 4 points of damage, taking him down to 20. And
Yeah, let's do
the
it
other
again.
Sky Nomad, yeah, just gonna come back to hand and start bouncing all the things.
Shahar missing out on Scry here. It looks like he puts on full control before the Yorion Blink resolves, just to make sure that he's getting that scrying with the Maze Might Tome. He'll want to keep the tapped Yorion here, as it'll essentially allow him to get 2 rounds of triggers while blinking the tapped Yorion as well. So plenty of value from Shahar, and he's now putting Javier to the test. Javier has one last turn, more or less, to
Mhm.
find that Zenith Flare. If he's not able to, then things can just really get away from him.
So just a reminder to anyone who's just joining us, Shahar Shenhar is the first player to possibly make it into the top 8. Needs to win this game here against Javier Dominguez to do so. And looks to be making one heck of a comeback here. Can Javier Dominguez find the Zenith Flare off the top of the library to stay in this matchup?
It's go time. He took that Sacred Foundry shock on that turn because he intends to cycle as many times as his deck will let him on this end step and on his next turn to find that Zenith Flare. He knows he's running out of time. All of these blinks from Shahar, all of these cards drawn are pushing him closer and closer to having the answers or even just padding his life total against this potential Zenith Flare coming eventually from Javier. So this is Javier's window, and he needs to find that third Zenith Flare. He's already used 2. There's only 2 remaining in the deck.
There's a cast out off the top of the library. Let's cycle that again. Take a look, see what we find. Go for blood.
Javier is only stopping on land. Land and Zenith Flare. That's where he stops.
Yep. That's a land.
land.
All right. One time. Let's go.
That's land. Oh,
I know. I feel your pain, Javier. Shake that hand at that top deck. Oof. That
Haley,
is rough.
I'm loving this match. Both players recognizing their win conditions.
Yep.
There's the Necromentia.
Oh, what? Look at that head shake. He knows it. That is exactly what he needed to find.
Every single turn of this game from Shahar has been working towards that. Everything from Javier has been trying to kill him before Shahar finds that. This game has just been so masterfully played by both players.
Oh,
and unfortunately for Javier, Shahar won the race to the Necromentia.
Oh my goodness me, what an absolute find there for Shahar Shenhar. Gets rid of Javier Dominguez's win condition and now can just run away with this matchup. Unbelievable stuff here from the 2-time world champion.
So heartbreaking for Javier. He had so many opportunities to find that bit of damage that he needed, but yeah, he knows this match is done.
That's gonna do it. That's gonna do it. Shahar Shenhar, 12-1. He advances to the top 8. Our very first player to do so. Congratulations, Shahar. What a game, money.